Welcome to Building SaaS with Python and Django. My name is Matt Lehman, and on this stream we build a Django app in Python and continue on a homeschool application that I've been building. So you walk on the journey with me as we develop this application, and I teach you what I know about Django as I've been doing it for many years, and hope I can share some of that knowledge with all of you. This evening we're going to work on a feature that is within my homeschool application. It's a homeschool scheduling app if you're joining us for the first time. And one of the things that has come in from our customers is a request to improve the usability of a certain page that is right at the core and the heart of the application. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get into an existing view. We're going to extend and modify the view and then change some of the template stuff and some of the logic that goes with it and work through that whole process. As always, you're free to ask me anything about Python, Django, or web development. That's what I'm here for. And I'm happy to take pauses and have chats as we go through this process. But I'm also here to make some progress on an app that has actual customers. And I'm trying to respond to one of those customer requests today. Before I get to that, though, I do want to take a moment to thank those that support me on Patreon. And if you like what you see here and you want to support me in a similar way, you can at patreon.com/mblehman, just like you see on my GitHub handle here. And I want to thank Rupert, Andrew, Dragos, Patrick, Eric, Philip, Miguel, Shivan, and I want to thank two new patrons of Fred and Monty. I appreciate your contributions. It helps motivate me to continue doing this kind of stuff, teaching what I know, and I'm just really grateful. All right, let's get into this, shall we? Let's go to the code. I guess maybe we should, before getting into the code, let's talk about what we need to do and outline the problem, and then we'll get into like the actual code modifications. But it won't help you much if you don't have much context of what's going on. So the first thing I really want to do is fire up the application server locally, and we will browse to the site and replicate the scenario that I'm trying to create and trying to modify. We can orient towards that, and then we can talk about what changes are going to need to be made. So if we fire up on port 5000, where my local host is, I can go to the weak page, which is the page that we care about. But you won't be able to see the problem here because I'm already with an existing account that doesn't manifest the issue. So what we're going to do is create a new account and create the scenario that replicates this problem. And then we can talk through the details of what that problem is and what the customer would like to see happen differently. So I'm going to start by going to the bottom of the page and logging out. And I'm going to create a free trial, a new signup basically. And this we're going to call this account, give it just a meaningful name here. It doesn't really matter because none of this actually completes real authentication stuff with the real service. So we'll call this next school year at example.com and give it a password. This is the normal flow that a user would see, and they would go and check their email. I'm not sending real emails in local development though, but I am recording the email that would be sent to the user, and you can see it right here in a more raw form that gets sent in the actual format of that an email system would know how to process. But here's the confirmation link that we can open, which will complete the registration process and allow them to create something. So the first thing we're going to do, and actually we don't have to go very far in this process, is to create a school year. And doing even that much will get us in the right position. So I'm going to create a school year, and the important part about it is it needs to be in some distance into the future. So let's say we're creating a school year that starts on 5/1/2022. We're at in December of 2021. That's the time of this recording, and I don't know, just picking a few months into the future for no particular reason. And we'll say that the school year ends at the beginning of December that year. Again, these are totally arbitrary, but it will illustrate the point. So we can create that school year, and we could walk through the rest of the onboarding process and create all these other pieces of data, but I don't actually know that we need to. Before I click away from the onboarding, let's just validate that. Okay, so there are things that we do have some preliminary data that we need before we can get going. So we'll keep walking through this onboarding, and we'll make a grade, and we'll add a course. of, not Matt, that's my name, math. And then we'll add a task that is learn about multiplication. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. What do you learn about in 4th grade? I don't remember. It's been a long time. And now the other page said we also need a student. So we need to have a student here as well. So let's create our first student, and we'll create, just to save on names, we'll just use my name and pretend that we're me, or that I'm still in school as a 4th grader, even though I've not been in 4th grade in a very long time. Okay, so now let's go here. And here is the problem that the customer pointed out. The user has, at this point in time, created a school year. And this page, this week page, is designed to show you the activities that are happening each week. It's really the heart and soul of like the scheduling tool manifested. So you input all your data to build your homeschool schedule, and you want to live on this week page to kind of see, okay, what do I need to do this, or what do my kids need to do this week? And there's some big problems with this page as it exists. So what's happening right now is the page is looking at, okay, today is December the 22nd, 2021. Are there any school years that are running right now? And the answer is no. So rather than doing anything smarter about it, just kind of throws up its hands, just like this woman here with the clock, and says, I don't have anything to show you. But we can do better than that. And that's what my customer, who is my spouse, to be clear, has asked me to change. So there are certain navigational elements that are persistent on this week view page that she would like to be there all the time, and so that we can change some of the stuff. So there will be times like where this call to action is appropriate. If there's no school year to look forward in the future, it still is useful to tell somebody, hey, here's a quick way you can get to the school year. There is a reason for having this page, but it needs a little bit more. So what we're going to do is make it a little closer to what the final output is. There'll still be the call to action, there'll still be the stuff, but we're also going to expand upon the Django view that powers this page to look for any future school years. And if a future school year exists, we want to have a call to action that takes them right to that week where it starts, because that's often what they're interested in. This situation came about because my family happens to run on a calendar year for homeschool, and my kids are finishing up at around Christmas time when this is, and they're basically done with their school year. They'll have finished a couple more years of elementary school, and the next school year is a couple weeks out in our family because we've got some travel and we're doing other stuff. So there's this break in between where one school year has ended and the next one hasn't begun yet. So my spouse noticed that when she was navigating, in the normal week view includes some navigation to jump between weeks. When she went beyond the boundaries of the current school year, it dumped her to this page, and she had no recourse for either getting back to the previous year, because aside from using the back button of the browser, and she had no mechanism to jump forward to the next year. So that's the catalyst for this issue. And actually, it was something that I had known about a long time ago. I mean, you can see this was all the way back on January 3rd. It was just never really a priority. But now that I have actual paying customers, and this is just like a really obvious usability bug that we're trying to fix. So the bit of stuff that I want to change probably right out of the gate is like there's no header here. The header was lost. And I guess let's contrast this with what this would look like. So let's bring up a private window that's not logged in, and we'll go to the port 5000 again. And we're going to log in with the normal user that I use for showing stuff off. So I believe that's this email, and whoops. It might be, I might have that backwards. It might be example. Either that or I typed the password in wrong. Okay, so let's try inverting this. Example at testing.com. Oh, come on now. What is something is awry? Either Oh, what is it? That's annoying. All right, hold on a minute, y'all. Sorry. Let's bring up, because I have the data and I want to go just look at the real thing. So we're going to bring up the management shell, and we're going to, from homeschool users models, import user, and there shouldn't be that many emails in here. So for user in user objects all, we're just going to iterate through them all and print out the username, user email. Okay. Somewhere, not example. Okay, that was my problem. I forgot that I used this silly domain. Now I don't have the server right. Blech. Okay, let's try it one more time for posterity. Hey, okay, there we go. So this is the user interface that I want to include all the time. So that if I include this week navigation bit, then the effect is, if you're on a current school year, great, you'll see this page. You'll see this page where you actually have activities and tasks, and that's all good. If you're not on a school year, you can still see this call to action stuff, but it'll just have the header at the top. So you'll have a context of, well, there may not be a course that's running this week, or there may be this future action that we want to put in there of saying go to the next school year. But at all times, you should have some control. And that's what's lacking right now. Like, so this set of controls needs to be there. So we gotta figure out how to put that back in. So the combination of that and the page that we had over here is what we're really after. All right, so we're done looking at this, but this just to give you an idea of, like, this is the goal of get this thing up there. And well, we'll see how this goes. All right, so let's take a look at the code now that we've described the problem. And the challenge with this is that this particular page, this is one of the most complex pages in the app. And some of this context data is not inserted into this unless certain preconditions have been satisfied. So you can see here that we've got some checks that's like, when we went through that onboarding process and looked at this page, there was some other stuff that said, hey, you don't have any students yet, so we need to, like, show you something different. Before you can get any value out of this, you have to add a student. And we want those checks to remain. So how do we add in this extra bit of context when it's not there? Because really, the extra context that we need is in this particular method called getWeekContext here. And that is part of the problem. So we need to pull some context up a level to be able to include it in these call to action versions of this. And that shouldn't be too hard, I hope. So some of the stuff we can get all the time. I'm thinking about, like, how many of these parameters are we going to have to kind of hoist somewhere else? I don't know if that's the right word or way to describe this, but that's really what we're after. Because the way this page works is, well, now I got rid of the navigation, so you can't really see it. But remember, there was that basically the ability to look back and forth during different weeks. And the way that would show up is it would switch from dashboard to some kind of like dashboard /2021/12/20, because I think it always starts on a Monday or something like that. So you can navigate to those weeks. And so if those parameters are included, then it does some different calculation of what is the day to consider. So a lot of this week context data is what needs to be pulled up. The part that we don't need to include, that needs to stay in here, is some of this extra data about the schedules and like the details that go into building that table of dates and days and courses and student information. That is also embedded deep in this method. And we get down to, here it is. Get schedules, get next school year, all that kind of stuff. So I think the first step in my mind is to pull up some of the bits that are up here, like the first day, last day, and stuff like that. It's honestly been quite a while since I've looked at this view. It's been fairly stable over many, many months, so I have to refresh my memory on a bunch of these things. And there are some elements that are part of the template that we can bring up that have to go into how do you build those links for getting into the previous and next page. And they're somewhere in here, and I need to remember where those are. So apologies on taking a little extra time to figure out where did this stuff go. And I honestly, I'm to the level where I need to remember the name of those data elements and what I put in the context. So we're looking for, oops, that's the wrong dashboard. We're looking for the dashboard. Happy building. Thanks for chatting the first time. I'm looking at your question right now to make sure I understand it. Yeah, the context will be needed. It's not really a widget so much as but it could be a template partial or something. I don't know that if I need a new class, but there's some good thoughts in there that we'll explore when we see this data. I think there's probably ways to extract it into what you're describing of an include of some kind that will have the partial. So where the name of this template is actually app for historic reasons, I ultimately decided to rename this particular view to dashboard, but I never renamed the template. That was lazy of me, I think. And the reason that I renamed it from app is because the URL that I end up getting, so you're only seeing localhost here on 000, but the actual site, if you want to see the real thing in production, is the schooldesk.app. So I got a .app domain. So I didn't want to have .app/app. So it's the schooldesk app dashboard is kind of how it reads now, which is a little nicer, but I should probably rename the template. It would be smart. Okay, so we're looking at this template now. And here is where it starts the actual stuff. If up here, there's already some include stuff for if there's different calls to action or those different empty states when data is missing from the application and hasn't been filled in yet. But this part from line 19 onward is the actual stuff that we want to care about. And it's not terribly long. I mean, there's probably more in here than I like, but the part that is definitely the part we need is right here, this div. So this thing needs to be elevated to essentially be there all the time. And the question that I need to figure out is there's going to be some impacts here. So if I pull this up so that it's always there, then some of the challenges become, well, what happens when you're going through the onboarding flow and you come to this page? Is it going to have the header and then a banner underneath it? I guess that's probably what would happen. So let's just try the naive thing. Let's see how it goes, and see how we can fix this here. So I'm going to take the div and I'm going to put it above all of this stuff, knowing that it probably has some layout changes and there are definite pieces in here. Like right now, I frankly suspect this is going to blow up because we won't be including this context right away. So the previous week date is going to be null and we're going to be accessing year. And so let's just see it explode. Oh, it didn't, much to my surprise. So I'm puzzled by this. Why did it not explode? we must have come into a scenario. Oh, we did have a school year and we did have a student. So it did go into this method and then set some of these parameters on first day and previous week date. Because you can see if you look closely, like this is first day and previous week date are the two critical ones. And previous and next week date are the two things. These are the, I keep saying two, three. There's like past, present, and future is really what we're after here. And so all this calculation, essentially from here to here, is the part that is stuff that we need. So I can make this blow up, I'm pretty sure, if we were to create another junk account. And so let's go create a new window so we can have two different sessions. And we'll go back to the port 5000 and we'll create a new account that is explode at example.com and give it a password. All right, the key that we're going to have to do here, though, is we're going to need to copy this URL and not open it directly, but copy it, and then go to that private make sure we're on that private window. Okay. Now if I go to the week view, boom, there we go. Okay. So I at least have confidence that I know the data is as I expect it to be, and I know that the state conditions that we've hit are appropriate. So what we want to do, and this is actually a good case because we're going to be in this case where it shows the banner from the onboarding process, and so we could pull up the extra data. So for a moment, the first moment, what I'm going to do is just take all of this data that's in here, and I'm going to do the dumb thing for a second and copy it. I know that feels dirty. We're going to make it better. This is really just to prove that we can get the page working again. So pulling all that data up, it's the exact same logic, but now it's in the context. And I think that should be enough to make the page not blow up anymore, I hope. Okay, so now here's our new modified user interface. And the question that I ask is like, is this bad? Would it be better if this onboarding flow that I showed in other places was above the title? And honestly, I don't think so. I kind of like it here, kind of close to the call to action. Maybe this adds a little bit of noise to the overall experience, but it gives very clear indicator of what this page is going to be like, knowing like you haven't filled in all the stuff here to make this work yet, but you at least know where you're going to be and what you're seeing and what kind of navigation you're going to get in the future. So I think that's good. Now, knowing that I've got that much, we can probably safely leave this chunk as is. Let's close the template for a moment. I don't think we need to modify that anymore for the time being. So we now have this stuff pulled up to here. And there's probably a to-do of like, maybe this should be, make the week context a private method, because it's adding a lot of stuff to what would have been an otherwise fairly clear context data method. So I think we can do some work there to make that better. The other part here is that, okay, so we moved it up, but I think there was stuff that was actually depending on this week calculation. And so if I suddenly comment this out, my editor should complain and say like, hey, there's a bunch of local variables that I was depending on that are now gone. Yep. And that's true. So day and today are two things. Well, there's more. And day, today, and week are the pieces that we care about. And the meaning of day is the time of this gets complicated. This is like the scheduling, and so whenever you're looking into the future, and you kind of see it here. So if I'm looking into this future and I'm week ahead, and we can extract out the year, month, and day from the URL, it means that the user is trying to look at a future week, and so they need to figure out what week to consider based on that information. But if you're just at the dashboard and you don't have any of that extra URL information in there, which is what this scenario is right here, you can see we're just at the dashboard URL. There's no year, month, day after that. Then it needs to pick a random, not a random date. It needs to pick a specific date. So it selects today. So the day that's getting passed around is when you want to be looking. So today is literally like, what is the today right now for you personally? And then the week is kind of the bounding box of the day. So we can probably replicate that piece actually. So I think, let me see if the day is passed in anywhere else. All right, so I think what I want to do is week used. The week is used for this stuff up here. So we're gonna, this week object is a really lightweight class that I created that kind of just represents the first day and last day of a school week. It's not doing anything very complicated or expensive. There's no database stuff in there, so it's okay for there to be multiple instances here. So I think what I can do is I can pass in the day, and I can pass in today, which are pieces of information that we'll have above. And maybe I'll change the order, I don't know. It probably is fine. So we're passing those in. So now the only thing that's missing is the week, but we can create a new one of those. So it's going to kill off all of those. And we'll go ahead and get rid of this context for now. So we're trying to clean up the mess I made, essentially. That's what we're after at this point. So we've got the week, and I've got MyPy on, so it is able to detect that I'm not passing in the correct number of parameters. So we now need to extend this to be today, or the day and today, which are now calculated above. Okay. So all we've done is move some data around and did a little tiny bit of duplication, but that's okay. Next, let's quickly check the test suite, see if I broke anything. This application has 100% test coverage, and so it doesn't mean my test suite is perfect, but it does mean it checks every line of code at some point, and I do check a lot of context data, so it's possible that I might have broken some expectation, but possibly not. All right, good. So everything's still working there. All right, so we've got the application working. Let's refresh. And yep, that's still good. Let's do that little refactoring that I talked about to put all of this stuff into a private method. That's probably going to have to return some stuff as well. We'll see. We'll see what parameters we want to take. So I want to say, oh, rats, what should I call this? Let's see, set week dates context. I don't know. It's kind of a rubbish name, but it's all right. It's a start. And we'll put this after here as the set week dates context. For now, it will do nothing. but passed. So that gives us a method so that this page would still load. I'm just taking the overhead of an extra method call, which is not too much. And what I want to do is get rid of the to-do and take all of these lines and take them out and see what all breaks. So I've moved some method parameters again. So now we're missing day and today, and we also don't have the context. So we need to pass in the context so that it can modify that. Like that. So that corrects this, but then the problem is the day and today are not returned. So we could have a return on this. That feeling weird though? Maybe. So I could do this where I get day and today, and then up here I could say day and today, and that'll work, but it feels a little strange, right? Like we're setting some stuff in the context, but why does the setter method have some return types? That's odd. So maybe there's more refactoring to do here. Maybe instead of having these be returns, that they should be input parameters instead. I think as I'm looking at this, really what I care about, what do I care about is a good question. Okay. This definitely needs day and today. And I think I'm changing my mind. I think I want these as input parameters instead of having returns, because it just feels too strange to have this setter do that. So let's delete those. And let's delete this return type here. So now I want to pull the day today up. Put that there. And then I want to create a new little private method. We'll call it getDay. And I guess it needs to take today. Oh man. Sometimes the exploration of refactoring and stuff, like you actually may not be excited about the results initially, but you got to go where the parameters take you and to make things a little better. So we want to take all this stuff and put it in here, and then return this day. And now we can say the day is equal to self get day, which takes today as an input. Still a little strange, but I think we're getting closer to something that I'm feeling comfortable with. So with this much done, we can take that out. We can listen, since this method is all about setting the context, I think it's okay to have the day context be set in here. That feels fine. And there's some extra logic here about when to set that for today. It's a corner case. We don't need to really talk too much about it. Okay, I think the setter is finally feeling good. It's like everything that it's doing here is about setting the context. It's not about looking anything up or doing any really heavy calculation. I guess this if branch is the most calculation that it's doing. It's really a compare. And then otherwise it's setting context values. Now we've converted this into more of a query operation of extracting information and returning it. So we have separated query and like action, which is a common thing that you want to do. Like you want methods to typically have one sort of role and function. And my previous version of this was doing all sorts of stuff. So I'm not crazy about this part about passing in today, but I think I'm okay with it. So let's call this find the appropriate day to display. And display is not right. To use for week calculation. That's a little better. Set the dates for the primary week navigation element. That's what that one's doing. And then, okay, our get context data maybe got a little bit slightly messier because some of this stuff was in lower helper methods, but I think we're doing all right. In fact, now that we are in this main one, we can delete that stuff. So we've got the user, and so we don't need to access through self.request. We can simplify that. I think this has got what I need. So let's run the test suite again to make sure I didn't break anything else. And then we're going to get onto the actual like data modification. So this was like the easier half of this particular change. And that was making that navigation persistent and making that context available so that it could be persistent and display in all scenarios, which we've confirmed. The other bit that I want to do, which I don't think is going to require this extra account that we created. This proved out that it would explode, and now that it's not exploding and has that UI stuff. So I think we're done with this junk account. So we're back to this one that actually has that data of that future school year, and it needs to be able to indicate that. Because what we could do, actually, let's prove that this now works. We could go to the start of this school year, and I probably should have, in fact, so we're not clicking for forever. Let's go to the school year and let's modify the start date. So we set the start date for like May 1st. Let's change that to be something much sooner. Let's do, I don't know, 1/15. So it's kind of like if you were like a calendar year. Okay. So now if we return to this week view and start clicking forward, we should actually at some point hit the real new school year, and this stuff will stop displaying. Go ahead and notice that so looking forward in the week, it switches to this weekly URL, and it's got now the year, month, and date there. So that's doing its job. But it shouldn't have anything for the second. But should it the 9th? If it depends on Sunday, I don't know. Too lazy to think about. Okay, Saturday the 15th. So the typical school year runs Monday through Friday, which is editable. But even though we said the school year starts on the 15th, there's no activities to do. So this next week, Aliens 1316. Hey, welcome. What's going on? I'm working on my homeschool application, and it's a Django app written in Python. So we're walking through that, and I'm working on a usability bug. There was a change. Okay, cool. Okay, I got it. We're working on this usability change to make it easier to jump and see the particular school year that my customers want to see, and rather than get this like confusing page of, hey, there's nothing there. There's a key element that I'm missing in this new account, though, and that's it. I have to enroll a student. And actually, I give this big warning all over the place, so it's not too surprising that it's like that. So I can enroll the student, and I can enroll Matt Lehman for 4th grade. I'm going to redo 4th grade. I feel like Adam Sandler? Happy Gilmore? Yeah. Returning back to the week view. So here we are back to current day again. Remember, this is, but we need to, if we jump ahead a few now. Okay, now we see the data, but it's a little weird because I picked a, not looking at the real calendar, I picked a date that didn't make any sense. So the first day of this particular school year is January 15th, but if let's fix this up so we can actually see a task. So let's set the school year to start on the 10th. So we'll go over and we will modify the school year to start on January 10th. First day of school for the year, Monday. Now, if we return to this page and refresh, okay, now we've got that new task. So this is actually what we want the users to see. And like in a real school year, there will be, the users typically will fill in many courses, math, science, reading, whatever language that might be studying, etc., etc. And this schedule would be a very full grid of information. All we did was fill in a single data element, but it's enough to prove to us that the effect will hold true for everybody else. And what I want to have happen is I want to be able to let somebody go from this dashboard and jump straight to that page that we were just looking at that had the table of information filled out, and recognize that there is a school year in the future. And that's where we need to look ahead and see if there's any school year that we can grab. There's also like weird, there are weird boundary conditions that come into play here that might make this a little either easier or harder. I'm not really sure yet. It's also possible. So if you think about how the school could be scheduled, you can have something spaced out like I'm talking about, where one school year ends around Christmas time for a calendar year family like myself, and then the next school year starts up a couple weeks later after getting back from seeing family and stuff. And that's the scenario that we've set up. It's also possible to think about a different customer who's like, nope, I want schools that are like back to back. And not only are they back to back, but they're like same week. It's possible. So you could have a school year that ends on a Tuesday, and then the next school year starts on a Wednesday. And the app actually handles that case. It handles it as best as I could manage, which if you were to see that case, it's basically one schedule sits at the top. And so you'd see like Monday and Tuesday in columns 1 and 2, and then you'd scroll down, and you'd see the same student if they were enrolled in the next school year on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So that scenario is there. And I bring that up because it is possible, it might be possible to reuse that context data if it exists, or we might have to rename some variables to something more useful, because there might be some conflicts here, which I recall. And we could see that if we look in the, where am I looking at? It's in this get week context data. There's this next school year, I think. Yeah, which sets a next school year, or it sets a next schedule. So okay, maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it's embedded as something else. So I'm not going to dwell too much on it because that case is really, really unlikely, and I've already done a bunch of logic there. So I think what I want to do is when we're in this scenario where a user may have a school year, we need to look ahead to that future school year. So it's not just this Boolean state of has school years, it's more than that. And I guess we only need to consider showing the button. So the has school years is a good condition to check, right? Because there's no point in doing a query looking for a future school year if I've already done a query to say, like, do you have any school years? If that's false, then it doesn't make any sense. So we can get in here and, well, it gets complicated because there are two Booleans that come into play. Oh, junk. Okay. Let's think about this scenario. State matrix of there are school years and there are students. That's this one. But there are school years and there aren't students. So you still might want to... Nope. I'm talking myself out of it. I'm sorry, I'm being a little vague about this. That's my bad. I confess I have a lot of context in my head of what I expect to happen, but here's what I was thinking of. If you don't have any students defined at all, it basically means you're not onboarded into the app yet. So the week view is never going to show you anything except saying, like, you need to create some students before we're going to show you stuff. And so that's this empty students partial that's here. So that's what will happen if we hit this else branch, which means that this future student calculation or future school year calculation in context only needs to go inside of here. Now the question becomes, do I want to put it inside of this method, or do I create another method? Let me think on that for a minute. Okay, I could see a case where we could argue that it is weak context data. So it's just information about the whole week, where it might just be saying, like, hey, this isn't the week you're looking for. So look to the future. And we need this week actually when we're thinking about which school year to try and find. Okay, so let's put it here. So we need some kind of like data contract to do that looking, and which means we need a context name that we're going to expect in the template, and we can define that here, and then maybe fake it and put the template in there for what that should be, and consider, like, if we do the work to figure out that I'm not speaking very clearly. If we put the stuff in the template, I think we're going to discover what other data we need. That's what I'm trying to say. So I have a speculation of, I have some ideas about what's going to go in there, but I don't fully know yet. And yeah, I think that's the way to go. So at least let's get a starting point. Let's say, what would we call this? I think the right name that I want to use is something like future school year. That's really what I'm looking for. So the conditions, I'll jot them down as some comments for a moment, and then we'll flesh them out. So we want to look the week class, which is, where's that class defined? Week schedules, core schedules. So the week class has a first day and a last day of that particular week. So we want to look for a school year that is beyond that last day. So the last day plus 1. Yep. And that would get us a future school year. There may be multiple future school years. So some crazy planner could be like, I've got my kids' entire secondary schooling education planned out, and that person could exist. So we want to look for a future school year, but we want to order by the particular date, so that when we get back results, we're only going to show them the next school year. All right, so coming back down here to our comments section, we're looking for week last day plus 1 is the school year that we're after, and we want the school year with the earliest first day, which implies an order by, if you're starting to think about the SQL. So those are the bits that we need. Having that much will allow us to put a school year into the context that we can display, and the school year knows how to display itself. So we can make that of like jump to the 2022 school year, or actually I have it designed so that if it's entirely within a calendar year, it'll just say that 1 year. But if it spans, like if it's 2022 into 2023, it will do it as a range. So that capability is in there. And so we want to be able to put that school year into the context. If that school year is there, we also need to create the link to jump straight ahead to that first week. So we want to, from the school year has a start date. We can create a week from that and use the week first day to generate a URL. Maybe that doesn't make a lot of sense to you. Like I know the objects that are in play here. So if it didn't make sense, don't worry about it. We'll get to it. I think what I'll do is I'll try and this is one of the scenarios where I don't think I need to do test-driven development approach here. I think I can kind of hack in the data that I think is going to be right, or the Django code that I think will be right, and then we'll fiddle with the template to make it look right, and then we can go back and add the test code in this circumstance. I don't need to do test-driven development. All right, so first thing to do is we want the future school year. And we want that to be what? It needs to be school year objects filter, where the start date is greater than the week last day. Yeah, I think that's the right condition. And furthermore, we want to order by the start date. So we want the oldest first, so we don't need to put the negative here, because if we put the negative, that would be like newest first, I think. And so we'll do order by start date. And then we'll take the first of that. The first method on a Django query set will either give you a result or it'll give you a none value, which is the behavior that we want. We don't want to raise an exception and wrap this in a try except block. We can do it this way, and then we'll either have a first school year or not. So then we need to check if there was a future school year. If there was, we want to add it to the context as future school year. That's the data contract that the template can expect. The other thing that we want to do is we want to put in the what should we call this? We can call it future school year week URL. Oh man, that's kind of rough, but I think that's I'd rather be verbose here. And so we can do a reverse on the oh geez. Okay. Future school year week. I want to say that's going to be a week based on the future school year start date. Okay. Now we should be able to do the core weekly view, and it expects the args list, which will be the future school year week first day. Oh, yuck. It's going to get quite long. Year. The future school year week. Oh, geez. Hold on. We really only care about the first day. Future school year week start. Okay, let's do that. And let's take out the school year just because it's a really long variable name. So future week start. Let's try this again. So core weekly, I think is the view name. And then the args of week, future week start year, future week start month, future week start day. All right, let's check on see if I got the URL right. Yep, there's a weekly. So it's going to be core weekly because this is the app name is core. And so it's a namespace thing. So core : weekly will be the right name. And then it expects 3 parameters, year, month, and day, which are integers, and they match up with the year, month, day that come off of a Python date object. So I think this should give us the proper URL that we can then add to any button that we want to put in the call to action on that. All right. Let's try this. So we've done. Instead of doing last day plus 1, I was able to get by that by just saying greater than. So it's not this particular last day. Actually, school year. Let's check on the model, make sure that it's a date field. I think it is. Yeah, it's a date field. So greater than will be the next day. And so we're ordering by the start date, which is what we want. Check it if it's there. And if it is, we add some data to the context. It's feeling right overall to me. And then we generated the URL from the first weekday. I wonder, can we get this smaller if I get rid of future here? It's just a local variable. Will that work? It's just very vertically, it's tall. No. All right. Black isn't going to make this any shorter, so we might as well leave it as the more descriptive name. Okay. Now this code's been running in the background the whole time, so we can, I will stop it though. So we're going to put it in debug mode. which should bring up the debug toolbar. And now that we're in debug toolbar, we can go over to the context and we can see if future school year is there. There's future school year. There is the URL. Great. I think it's like set up to go. And look at what that URL is. It's 2022-19, which I believe was the one that had the data that we wanted. So let's actually just click ahead a little bit. There it is, 2022-19. It's that first date that has that table of data, which is excellent. Okay, so what we want to do is start using this. So let's go back to the core app. Template, which I might rename before this stream is over. And I don't know why I left that. Pretty silly. So where do we want to put that? That would still go here. No, so we don't need to change the messaging on this page. No school year is running this week. You can start a new school year to see your schedule here. Maybe we want to change the copy here because it's still true. It's no school year is running this week. That is an accurate statement. I want to add a new, let's just do it this way first. If future school year, we're not going to actually include the right data yet. Let's just see it in action, how this looks. We'll put a second button there. 2 buttons. Doesn't look super. I think there's some padding that we need, margin. So let's come over here and we'll say MX2. How about that? Let's see how that goes. Oops. That might be too much. Because I don't think I normally include that much padding. MX1. And then for the moment, well, now we can start filling in with the right stuff. So let's change the inside and we'll say go to future school year. And that'll give out a representation view. Go to Well, we definitely need more information there. That's not enough. It only includes the... I'm worried about what happens if this starts like wrapping. I think it will. So let's try modifying the school year. And let's make it wrap into 2023. Can't just probably can't just double this because there is a maximum that I put on this, but we could definitely say this goes into January 15th. So it's over a year. The effect is now it's a 2022 to 2023 thing. If we come back to this page, oh, it fits. The URL's wrong, but it still fits. Oh, here's where we can get clever. So it says you can start a new school year to see your schedule here. And then we can add a little if guard right here that says if future school year, and then say or jump ahead to your next school year. So that makes the text block kind of context aware. Okay, and then we'll change the URL here to be future, what did I call it? I think I called it future school year week URL, right? Something like that. Yeah. Okay. So we can, no school year is running this week. You can start a new school year to see your schedule here, or jump ahead to see your next school year. Whoops. Why did that? What is it doing? Saying, looking at the bottom, it says 12/19/2021. Or why is it doing that? (2021 12/19). What is that? This is the... Are there multiple school years for this school? No. Well, that's super weird. What the heck happened? We expected it to jump to January, the week of January 9th, right? And here, it's got 2022, January 9th. That's right. Which is the right answer. But if we go back far enough, it seems to be finding a totally different school year that doesn't exist. Something is not right with this logic. Oh, maybe I was just looking at the wrong link and hovering over. No, here it is. If we go back far enough, then we get this other date here, which I'm super confused about. What did it do? How can it calculate a future school year, a weekly school year, for a school year that hasn't happened yet? Oh, you know what it has to, it probably has to, okay, I think I might see it. What happened when I went between this link and the next one? The difference is today has changed. In this link, 12th through the 18th, that's in my past, right? So the day, I bet it's the day that's being calculated is different. So we were getting the week here. What's still confusing though is it still should be a link based on the start date of a school year. That's what I don't get. Because like regardless of, let's say, if we had, okay, let's just print some stuff for the moment. See if we can orient ourselves to what in the world is happening. Because there's some weird stuff going on. Future week start. There's some logic bug in here that I'm not seeing yet. Future week start. and we'll put in week last day. Okay, so I refresh this page for 12/12. The week last day is 12/18. Which makes sense. But the future week start's not right. So I would expect if we get a school year out, that this, okay, so what is this future school year then? Print future school year start date, print future school year end date, just to be complete. See what it's doing. (2021) 12/25. (2022) 12/25. Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. Okay, I get it now. I get what I did. I am querying all school years for all users. Wow, that's not good. Okay, so that is a condition I was not even thinking about at all. So we'll do self request user school like above. Amazing. Amazing. And I think now that I'm accessing it twice, I'm going to pull that out into a local variable. So I've got it here, and I'm about to use it here for this future school year thing. So let's do it. Let's pull it out into a local variable. School self request user school. All right. Now if we refresh, it's going to get the right school year of 1/9 again. That was puzzling. We're adding an extra query that I don't know that we need it all the time. Because it really only comes into play if there's no schedule. So what I could do, if I wanted to save a query on every page, I could check if the school year, if this list comes back as empty. Because that would imply there's no schedules and there's no school year. Probably end up doing that. All right, let's clean up the prints. And let's go ahead and put that right there. If not context schedules, and take all this stuff, put it here. Because that is that is the case that we care about. So it should still show up here because there's still no schedules. And then on that circumstance where there actually is a schedule, like if we go ahead and jump there, then we have a schedule now. But if we go and look at the template, that future school year won't be in the context because it doesn't need to be. Yep. Okay. I think that's the context we needed to add. I think the actual template change, I feel like it's good. I like it. Like we go back, it's there, it displays in a clear way. The pros is very clear. You can create a new one. So there's an explanation of what this button is there for. Or you can jump to the next one. So you can always create, and sometimes this button will appear, sometimes it won't. You jump, and then you're there. I like it. Okay. I am going to run the test again. Now, so we're functionally complete, but I'm the only person running this project and running this code. So I need my own safety net for the future to make sure that I don't shoot myself in the foot, which is why I write as many tests as I do. And I need to make sure that my current test is continuing to work. I have a feeling there might be a failure in here. It might detect a new query, and some of these bigger reviews will check for a query count. And so it might hit that path. So there might be a failure that we need to fix. If not, okay. So, all right, so nothing is triggering those lines. So we've lost some coverage, which I expected, and that's because there's that future stuff only gets put in there when there's no schedule. So we need to go test this. We need to go add an appropriate test. And then we can run the coverage again, and that'll kind of pull all of this together to finish off this feature. So we're done with the template. Like I said, I'm pretty happy with the way that little change looks. And now we need to, what do we need to do? I'm trying to think of how to test this. One way I could test this is to create a test and query on a particular week where the school year is always in the future. That's probably the easiest way to test this. So let's go to the core, test views. Whoops, I don't know where I ended up. Not the right place. And I didn't want that to be vertical. So we're in the test views, and we're looking at the test case for the dashboard, which is this thing. We need to set up a realistic environment. Let's close the view for a minute. And unfortunately, the dashboard just has a lot of setup to it, which is not really avoidable. Let's see if we can find one where it has an empty schedules already. So maybe this one is close. And we're going to come to the bottom of this test case, which is, again, there's too many tests in here. I need to clean it up, but not a high priority. So this is test future school year. I need a more specific name, I think. Future school year CTA. I don't like that, but I'm going to use the abbreviation. When on a week with no schedule, the future school year CTA is present. All right, now trying to think of what this is doing. This is the wrong school year factory. So we need to set school is equal to user school. So it's it's a connected school year. And we want to set it, I guess it doesn't really matter how far in the future it is. It just needs to be at some distance in the future. And yeah, okay. Well, it's going to get a little bit, tiny bit complicated for some aspect, but not too bad. So we'll say start date is equal to Sunday plus 90 days in the future. Again, doesn't really matter. Can that? But I'm wondering if that can fail in some weird ways. We'll make the school run all days of the week. Because there's some weird edge cases here where the test could fail. If I ran the test on like a Sunday or the timing got weird and it actually is variable on the calendar for that year, it's complicated. So we'll say days of week, and by making this particular school year run on all days of the week, then any particular week is going to be valid, I think. So we'll say the start date is plus 90 and the end date doesn't really matter too much. School years are like 200 days on average or something, or 180. So just throw in an extra 200 days. Do we need a grade level in an enrollment? I don't think so. I don't think that's going to matter. In fact, we kind of don't want anything on the schedule. So let's assert that there is a future, that the context contains, self get context contains future school year, and it's going to be equal to the school year, which I didn't assign to a local variable. Okay. The rest of this, let's ditch it. See if this test passes. All right. Why did you not pass? I'm probably missing some amount of data. We have a student. All right. Let's see if it's actually getting here. Getting weak. All right, it is getting into the method. That's good. Now we get down here. Maybe there's actually a schedule that I'm not realizing. Print, context, schedules. That'll be a little weird and surprising. Ah, there's a schedule. Why is there a schedule? Oh. It is enrolling them in a different school year. This enrollment factory is creating a school year. All right. Phooey. Let's take this out. I think that'll do it. Now are you dying? Well, now it didn't get to the print. It didn't print the schedules. Because now we don't have a student. Ugh. Killing me, Smalls. So we need a student. And the student needs to be connected to the user's school. Okay. Hooray. All right. So we know if we've gotten this far, we've gotten the future school year, that means there's also definitely going to be a future school year week URL. The question is, what is it? And sadly, the only real way to make this is to actually do the reverse again. But it cements that this is the thing that we care about. And we can do core weekly with the args of same stuff. Start year, start month, and start day. And start needs to be defined, and start's going to be a week on the school year start date, first day. And then we need to check that this is equal. Oh, bummer. Reverse for weekly. What did I? Core weekly. Sometimes, okay, let me see if I can find another example of reverse. So this helper method doesn't actually like args. It wants them as just positional arguments. Okay. That should get us that coverage for those missing 3 lines. It has the benefit of it also like specifies the expected data contract that is needed by the template. So if I was to ever delete those 3 lines by accident or do something that thinking they didn't matter, then I'd have a test that proves that actually there's a reason that those 3 lines exist. You can't just delete them. I don't know that I would do that, but it's still good to have that sort of safety net. So let's take a look at the change. Now that I think we're pretty much wrapped up. We've got a good test there. It might be a little heavy-handed, but it still does the right thing. We created a new helper method to figure out which day it is, and that day calculation is based on, are the year, month, day parameter arguments available from the URL? If so, set the day to one thing. If not, set it to a different day. And so we have that, and that's now abstracted away into that helper. And then we have the actual setting of that information about that stuff we put at the header. We set that into the context, and that includes some calculation that it has some edge cases and stuff. But that's what that helper is there. Then we refactored this to pull out the school variable because we needed it in multiple spots. And we added this future data if it's present. And then put in the URL if that's there. Then we have the header is moved up, which I guess could be put in a partial or something, but I didn't. And we've modified the text to be dynamic and know what to display there. And we've got the extra button to display if needed. I think that's going to do it. So let's commit it. If everything passes through pre-commit, looks like it did. And we can say, what can we say? Show future year call to action on week with no schedule. And this is going to fix number 270. Neat. All right. Well, I think that's going to bring us to a close for this stream for the day. Hopefully you found some of this interesting. I'm going to take this content like usual and post it up on YouTube. So if you want to check out something later based on what we discussed here or what you saw, you certainly can do that. If you can give me a like or subscribe, and that would be greatly appreciated on YouTube. Or if you're here on Twitch, is it subscribe or follow? I really should get that right. I should write it down on my paper so I can know what to tell you. I always forget. It's one of those two. It's the one where you're not paying me money. That's all I'm asking for is to support me with like knowing that you're voting with your mouse clicks, I guess. Anyway, thank you for joining in. Hopefully this was useful to you, and I will catch you in a couple of weeks. I'm taking some time off to go do family stuff, as I kind of hinted at throughout the stream. And I've got some Python Frederick meetup stuff as well early next year, so it might be a few weeks before we see y'all again. My next stream will probably include the exploration of a new feature that my customers have been requesting about handling the concept of field trips, and that's likely where we're going to go next. And that'll be a multi-stream project to get all of that done. So hopefully you'll tune in later for some of that. So have a great evening. Take care. Happy holidays. Goodbye.